The Mandalorian, by far, is one of the best shows that I've ever watched. Within the first few episodes, you get totally invested in the story, and feel like you are really living the events with these characters. On the 31st of October 2020, Season 2 of The Mandalorian started streaming, and with the first season being hard to beat, and a huge success at that, how did The Mandalorian Season 2 hold up to the rest of the show so far? Chapter 9 was an incredible episode, and it put us right back into the universe of Star Wars, and even brought back the armor of Boba Fett, which was just incredible to see on screen again. I enjoyed the character of Cobb Vanth, and I hope to see him again someday in some other Star Wars related shows or movies. Chapter 9 was by far the longest episode of all the series, and what a better way to start the season of The Mandalorian Season 2 back off on Tatooine. It looked amazing, the visual effects were fantastic, and the cliffhanger of Boba Fett being revealed at the end had us speculating from the very beginning. Overall, I'm gonna have to give this episode a 7.5 out of 10 for being a really, really good episode, and one that I would definitely watch again. Chapter 10 was probably my least favourite episode of the season, but that does not mean it was a bad episode. In this episode, I loved the bond between Baby Yoda and the Mandalorian, and the idea of them crashing on an icy planet was just pretty cool. Frog Lady was actually a character that I quite enjoyed, and the gag of Baby Yoda eating her eggs was just too funny. The X-Wing chase in this episode was probably one of my favourite moments throughout the whole series. Up until that point, of course. I wasn't too fond of a spider idea in this episode, but that's probably what lowered it a bit for me. Overall, this was an enjoyable episode, and I'm gonna have to give it a 6.5 out of 10. Chapter 11 is by far one of my favourite episodes of the series. Bringing back Bo-Katan into live action was absolutely incredible to see, especially with her being played by Katie Sackhoff, who actually voiced her in the animated shows. And just the final act of seeing all these Mandalorians team up to take down an Imperial ship was just so cool to see. The name drop of Ahsoka Tano in this episode had me so hyped for the next and the next. And of course, the mention of the Darksaber too. This was a really cool episode, and I'm gonna have to give it a 7.5 out of 10. Chapter 12 was a really cool episode, and I had a bad feeling going into this. In the end, this turned out to be one of my favourite episodes. We got the crew back together, having Cara Dune, Greef Karga, and even the blue guy from the first episode. And we got so much Imperial action as they were raiding an Imperial base. At the end, we even had a TIE fighter chase. And Baby Yoda went to school, like, you can't get much better than that, or so it would seem. This episode even kind of led up to the sequels, which showed some Bacta tanks, which I still think was Snoke or Palpatine. This created loads of speculation for me, and I can't wait to see if they actually continue this idea. We also in this episode got to see Moff Gideon for the first time in the flesh this season, and I've gotta say, he's one of my favourite characters in the whole of the show. And in the whole of Star Wars, probably. He's such a badass character and is such a cool villain. Overall, this was a really cool episode, and I'm gonna have to rate it probably a 7.7 out of 10. Chapter 13 brought back the fan favourite character Ahsoka Tano into live action, and she looks amazing. Rosario Dawson did a fantastic job playing Ahsoka, and I cannot wait to see her storyline continued in the Ahsoka live action show. Her white lightsabers look awesome to see, and they were put to great use in the beginning and final act of this episode. The colour palette of this episode was very interesting, and I liked it. However, in some scenes, it did feel a bit off. Another really cool thing in this episode was the name drop of Grand Admiral Thrawn, who was a major character in the Star Wars Rebels series. This episode was really cool, probably my second favourite episode out of all of them, and I'm gonna have to put it at an 8.7 out of 10. Chapter 14 was a really cool episode with lots of action scenes and generally a good feel. This episode brought the real Boba Fett back into the spotlight, and he looks awesome. I don't think anyone can ever say Boba Fett is not badass after watching this episode. He absolutely annihilated stormtroopers with and without the armor on. And they also brought back Fennec Shand, which I didn't really like in the first season and didn't really want to see her again, but I've actually grown to like her over the last couple of episodes. And her character is a lot more interesting than at first thought. I loved the Imperial action in this episode, and it felt a lot more like a fan film than any other of the episodes. We also saw Grogu reach out to a Jedi, which left us speculating for a couple of weeks which actually Jedi or Sith did he reach out to. Overall, this was a really cool episode and I loved it. And I loved the fact that the Dark Troopers finally got put to use and we saw Moff Gideon a lot more. And the Darksaber at the end. So I'm going to have to give this an 8 out of 10 for just being a really, really cool episode. Chapter 15 brought back Bill Burr's character, and I actually really liked him this season. Before I watched this episode, I was a bit uneasy about him coming back, but he was really, really good, and Bill Burr was great at acting in this one. He really, studied on how to act if you have PTSD, and yeah, he just did a really, really good job. This episode also raised a lot of questions about the Mandalorians and how they can't remove their helmet, which eventually led to the Mandalorian removing his helmet in front of other people for the sake of the child. But of course now, the only person that has seen him alive up until that point was Bill Burr, because all the Imperials in that facility pretty much died. This episode also saw the team up of Fennec Shand and Cara Dune, which was a really, really cool duo, and I really enjoyed it. They work really, really well together, and I can't wait to see more of them in season 3. Overall, this was a pretty cool episode. We saw a seismic charge, which honestly made the episode, and I actually made a 10-hour video of that, so definitely check it out if you haven't seen it already. But yeah, I'm gonna have to give this a 7.5 out of 10. Good but not great for episode 7 out of 8. Chapter 16 was definitely my favourite episode of the whole seasons. It tied up a lot of loose ends, and of course the big reveal at the end, Luke Skywalker. Every single second of this episode was so good. This was probably one of my favourite pieces of Star Wars content I've ever seen. We finally got the duel between Mando and Moff Gideon, which I think could have been a little bit longer, but I will take it. The Darksaber looks so cool in live action, and I'm really surprised that they didn't leave this episode off on a massive cliffhanger. I was a bit disappointed with the absence of Boba Fett, but it was summed up in the end credits scene, in which the new show, The Book of Boba Fett, was announced coming in December 2021, which I'm a bit confused about how they are going to run at the same time as The Mandalorian Season 3. But at this point in time, I don't even care. The future of Star Wars looks so bright, and I cannot wait for everything that they have in store. It is honestly some of the best Star Wars news that we've had in years. I'm going to have to rate this finale as a 9.8 out of 10, just for some small little things that I'm going to be very picky on, like Luke looked a bit like a video game character, but I think they might change that, because they, how they removed Jean's guy from the Siege. But yeah, this was absolutely insane, and I just can't wait for the future of Star Wars. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Make sure to smash that like button if you haven't already, and subscribe if you're new. I think about 80% of you that watch our videos are not subscribed, and it just means the world to us if you just click that red button. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know what you thought of The Mandalorian Season 1 and 2 down below. May the Force be with you. Bye. Also, I'm probably going to have to rate Season 1 of The Mandalorian a 8.8 out of 10, and The Mandalorian Season 2 a 9.5 out of 10. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.